Welcome to the Fashion Translator. I'm Claire, your host. Together we explore how AI and innovation are reshaping the fashion industry through creativity, technology, and global partnership. For today's episode, I'm excited to welcome Abby Dubois, founder of Each Jewel. Thank you for joining me. Please introduce yourself and the company.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Claire. I'm Abby, founder of Each Jewels. Each is a hair accessory and jewelry brand made in the US and Italy. And we are, very much focused on sustainable materials, recycled metals, plastics, fabrics, etc. And we have been around for 7 years. So this is lucky number 7.
Yes, lucky indeed. What compelled you to create Each Jewel?
So I had worked in the industry for a really, really long time doing accessories, jewelry, you name it, mostly jewelry, honestly. And it was like really when sustainability was like in its infancy. Like I think the only sustainable brand out there at the time when I started was like Reformation. And there wasn't really a brand that was like dedicated to these practices like outside of Etsy. So we started out with minimalist jewelry and the market just got really crowded really quickly. And we did hair like on accident. Like I've always been a hair accessory girl, came up in the aughts of Gossip Girl, and people don't give the OC enough credit for how great their hair accessories were, but definitely the OC. And yeah, so hair is like what took off. And now that's like really the focus of the business.
That's a very interesting category. What are some of the highlights or some things that were surprising for you that you ended up expanding on?
The more extra we go, the better it does and the faster. And I think it's just because we have these pieces like our rose scrunchie, or like we launched with a smiley face barrette. Like I threw it on a line sheet and like emailed free people, and like immediately they were like, yes. Because I think just because it's like there's not a ton of hair accessory designers out there. I think there's like less than 10 hair accessory brands. But I mean, a lot of brands have hair as a category, but I think that is very much like, yeah, I think the more extra we go, the better. More people buy from us. Like our bestsellers are like daisy clips, but they're not daisy clips for like 5-year-olds. They're daisy clips for like grown women who like want to spend $100 on like putting flowers in their hair and not just for their wedding.
Yeah, I understand. I can see how that's a different market than the 5 years old Daisy, different product. Tell us a bit more about sustainability. Like which part of the process does it show up more? What are things you would like to grow on and explore within sustainability?
So I'll start with recycled metals. So everything we do is recycled metals. And people say, oh, jewelry, you always melt down as it is. So like by default, jewelry and hair accessories and anything in metal is a more sustainable category. Very not true. Like very not true. Because when you have recycled metals, you actually have to have like a process to polish them and make them look commercially viable. And it involves so many chemicals that like any waste that you have is going to be completely offset by like the shit you put out into the atmosphere. So I use like a slightly nicer metal that doesn't need to be plated. So 14K. So we don't plate anything except for our barrette backs and occasionally our chains. So we've cut that out because plating is like kind of nasty. It's extremely nasty. I don't know what I'm saying. And we do as much mechanical polishing as possible. So it's like cuts down on labor. And one of our factories has this like amazing system where there's like minimal water waste. So they like dump the metal pieces in these like 8 different buckets to get like the right surface finish. And it's almost like, I don't want to call it like irrigation, but the water that goes in like also goes out. So like the EPA doesn't have anything to say about these guys. So it's minimal water waste, it's minimal labor, it's minimal coatings. So we only really touch it with polishing at the very, very end. And I have a model making background, so everything's designed for manufacture. So basically these pieces are designed to be easy to polish. So it's like 2 seconds, they hit a nice shine and they're out. So that's like a big thing that we just like minimize process, minimize labor, minimize chemicals, like all of it, you know? So it's actually made a little bit more like fine jewelry in that way, but it's a
with
little bit, but
with the
we're like less
sustainable.
than out. Yeah.
You mentioned that your background, but tell us a bit more like how different pieces or different phases of your background end up like contributing to what you are building today.
So my background has taken a lot of twists and turns. So I majored in apparel, and then kind of halfway through the process, I realized how much I hated fittings. And I basically was like, I'm going to finish out the program, but like concentrate my portfolio and my work into accessories. And I ended up just like focusing on that in my internships. And I completely fell in love with jewelry when I was interning at Juicy Couture. Of course, 20-year-old Abby in 2010, when Juicy Couture was like, Paris Hilton was wearing Juicy, like it was like the place to be. So of course, I was like, this is my calling. I am going to be in jewelry now. So I basically took like, I guess the CAD part, like the 2D computer aided design part of fashion, really translated that to jewelry. And of course, I do everything like 500%. So I decided to learn 3D model making, which is like used at Tiffany's and Yerman and all of like the big houses. And even though for costume jewelry, you don't really need that, I wanted to learn it. So I got really into that. And now I'm like a full-on product engineer. So I started making models, and now that's like, yeah. So oftentimes my manufacturers will call on me for like model making advice. It's wild.
That's so cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I love what I do, and it's exciting.
Tell us a bit more, because you said like you learned the 3D modeling, but I'm sure that from the time that you learned it to today, there's been a lot of changes and evolution into the technology. Tell us a bit more about like how it was when you started and the evolution of it.
So when I started, I was just really trying to learn how to make basic things in Rhino, which is kind of like the poor man's SolidWorks, but that's what jewelry tends to like because, SolidWorks is probably too involved for a lot of the things that people are making with like different tolerances and, giving you mechanical feedback and whatnot. So basically with model making, you can throw your model into a rendering program. The rendering program will assign materials. Like you can assign materials like, hey, I want to look at this in 14K, or hey, I want to look at this in silver. And it can be anything as crazy as like car materials. You can have environments like living room, etc. And that is really what's gotten crazy. Like what used to be like, is it a photograph? Is it not? Like it's pretty indiscernible. So with Midjourney and AI and all of those things, I am like, oh, well, it's definitely like, I kind of saw it coming a little bit just because of working and model making, and like the realism of the imagery that you're able to get is like pretty astounding.
Yeah, it is. Are you working with this image render to then move into production and sampling directly from the image that are rendered from Midjourney, or do you go through more of a process to communicate with the factories?
I haven't used Midjourney for any design processes because everything I do isn't necessarily like based on a previous thing. I think it's an awesome tool for establishing like a brand mood or figuring out like a photo shoot or figuring out colors. I think it's like incredible. But I actually have my 3D model in Rhino in CAD and just send that straight to my manufacturers to 3D print. So they 3D print it and then they cast it. So I build the final piece. Like there are certain products and projects that I'm working on now that have taken a lot of edits, but like my claim to fame, I don't want to call it that. That sounds obnoxious. But like my superpower is when it's like a simple mechanism, I generally get it right on the first time.
Well, that is a superpower. Yeah.
Thank you. So I feel like when there is an opportunity, and of course in fashion, everything is due yesterday, which, that's great for all of our psyches. And if only the customer knew. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not saying I always get it right, but like 9 times out of 10, it's like pretty close. And I just think because I've been doing it for so long. Long.
You can even like it starts to take shape in your mind and in your before it actually turns into a real product. It's one of the magical
3D
parts.
printing.
Yeah. I think this every designer can agree that is the magical part, to have this idea that is born in your brain, and then it through those different, like, of course for jewelry it'll be something, for shoes it's something else, for garment, but then in the end this, like, to be able to bring our vision to reality, that's always something that I think we never get tired of.
Absolutely. I think you never get tired of that. And then, but what's interesting, and this really touches on like why I made the switch from soft product into hard product, is, when you design something, you're fitting it, like it goes through a lot of iterations before the final thing. Whereas with jewelry, like what you put into the model is exactly what you get out. And I think that so like every angle, every edge, everything, like it can be considered. Whereas with shoes, there are things that you have to do for comfort. For apparel, there are things that you have to do to accommodate for size. For jewelry, there's like none of that. And hair, of course. I mean, you can make a scrunchie whatever size you want, but there's some recommended sizes. But yeah, I think that, or like a bracelet for that matter. But in general, like it's kind of a free for all. It's both a free for all and something that you can get incredibly technical with, which I think is why it's like a much better fit for me than being in soft product.
Yeah, I would say there's a lot less variable that has to come like together in terms like a puzzle, there's less variable, but not less creativity or not less potential. It's a very interesting world. In terms of like the trends, because I want to go back, you mentioned like the daisies and the extra, like how do you approach trends? How do you look into them? And how do you decide which one you want to bring into jewelry?
So I'll look at like the shows and I'll keep up with that, and I'll just get like a general vibe. And then I'm very shape driven. So I'll create a new shape that fits with that vibe. I hate to say it, but each kind of sets all the trends for hair. And I know that's absolutely ridiculous and no customer would realize that because we're so small, but we started our pony cuffs, the pony cuffs that are everywhere. We started doing that back in 2018. So, yeah, so now they're picking up, but I mean, I don't want to say that we like fully set the trends, but we have organically over 15,000 monthly views on Pinterest. And I have not paid a penny on advertising. I don't like sit there and like post mood boards, I don't post anything. I just have my products linked. And typically like your average shopper isn't necessarily like putting their wish list on Pinterest, So
correct. It's not the first platform that would come to mind. It's not.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's typically Instagram and TikTok, but this is organic. Correct. 1 month, we had 40,000 monthly views on Pinterest.
Wow.
Yeah, I like not even a penny. And those don't always come back to the website because you can view everything there. So they're not people that are trying to buy. They're people that are clearly inspired because that's what you do for Pinterest. You are inspired. So yeah, so not trying to say that we set the trends, but we are definitely trendsetters.
Whether you can say that
comes from us or not.
You can own that.
I mean, you know what? If I was a man, I would proudly take credit for it. So I'm gonna
do
lean into that and take the fair share of credit. I mean, we've been heavily knocked off, which is not ideal for the business, but at the end of the day,
it says what it says. Yes.
There are worse things in this world. It's like imitation's the sincerest form of flattery. But yeah, and it kind of took a while. Like since when we started doing the pony cuffs in 2018, like 2025, 2024 is really when pony cuffs like started going wild. Like it's kind of a running joke at this point with my friends and I, like, I just kind of have to shrug it off and be like, well, it is what it is, In
the fashion industry, I feel it's inevitable. It's a reality we all have to navigate. And, and I feel like sometimes there's going to be a fine line between, it's a knockoff. Okay, so not a fine line. What I mean is when it's a clear knockoff, that's definitely not something we want. But the beauty, the other side of the coin would be like when you see that you're inspiring other brands or like artists. And this is something, when you can tell like at the soul of it, you can see a little bit of you in their piece, but they're infusing their own personality. Like it feels like you're growing, like it's growing beyond just your hand. I had this image of like a water ripple. that you
Yeah.
gave the first drop and then it just keeps on growing and growing beyond. And I think there's a beauty in that.
Absolutely. I agree. I think it's always an evolution. And to riff on that water ripple, like I have a million and one ideas. So I'm going to get knocked off a million and one times. And that's just what it is. And it's funny because, there are people like me, and I would imagine you, where you see something and you're like, oh, that's so cool. Like, I love it. I got to have it. It may not be a trend. It might be like the beginning of a micro trend. It may not be anything yet, but like you have conviction about the category. So you're like, oh, I love this. Like, I'm going to style it. It feels me, etc. And then it's been really satisfying seeing people who were like, it's not really me. It's like a little too cool, a little too whatever. Like those people coming and, buying and wanting stuff like 5 years later.
Yeah, I think some customer needs time to warm up and get adjusted to the idea. They'll be like, you'll have every type of customer. The one that are actively looking for the piece that will set them apart, that will be conversational, that will make people talk and look. And you have the ones that need to look at it and adjust and warm up. But it's good to have the whole spectrum.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think it's just like you kind of have to love the game. And I think I probably love the game a little too much, but
well, passion is one of the core driver for
absolutely.
We definitely need this. In terms of what you see or what you pursue for, let's say, the next 5 years, what are certain things that you're excited to grow into, or like maybe new product or category, market, in terms of like expansion and vision for the future?
Yeah, I love this question and I want to give you every single detail because I'm like the consummate oversharer. But I'm working on a new product for the last 5 years. It's embarrassingly long, but like once you see it, you'll be like, I get it. It took a while. There's a lot of engineering that has gone on in this, but it's going to change the game for the hair world. I can say that with 100% certainty. And hopefully it's going to launch. Like I keep on pushing it back and pushing the goalpost and whatnot. Hopefully it's going to at least start getting like initial retail buys in the next couple months. So then it'll hit stores in like 6 months to a year from then. I can't say what it is, but I can say with extreme certainty that a lot of people will have these. This is a product that's it's going to change the game. I'm really excited about it. This has truly been a labor of love. It's my baby. I'm so excited to bring this thing to market. You have no idea. I just can't say what it is yet.
It's okay. We cannot share any spoiler, but I'm glad that you get us like excited. And I feel like this kind of innovation seems to really fuel these innovations and these projects.
Oh, it's all about innovation. Like, there are people that want to riff on other people's innovations. And I think everybody does that to an extent, some people more than others. But yeah, this is going to change the game. So it's very exciting. I'll send you one once things happen.
Oh, that's so sweet. So, of course, I'll make sure to keep an eye on the new development. And for our listener who also want to keep in touch, all of your handle and contact, like everything will be in the bio for everyone who wants to tune in and be one of the first to see the launch.
Absolutely.
So, Abby, thank you so much for your time, your insight, your perspective. It was lovely to have you.
Thank you. You too. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for the lovely conversation. And yay.
We'll be in touch.